In this episode, I sit down with Sandra Wright. Sandra is an Olympic medalist. She talks about a journey which wasn't the easiest, going through many different obstacles and adversities in life to not only be able to compete in an Olympics, but also actually get a medal. Right, Sandra, thanks very much for coming on. Obviously, appreciate your time. And I'm just going to get straight into it for you. We're going to go right back to the beginning and talk a little bit about how you got into running.
So, at primary school, I used to always beat not only the girls, but the boys as well.
Yeah.
Not only at running, but at the throws, the jumps and everything.
Okay.
So I was always standing out from the crowd. And I still clearly remember that sports day. The secretary from the school office had come to me and said, I know a man you need to speak to who'll get you into running. And it was literally as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And he was somebody who went to her church, and he had a local running club. I was a Manchester girl born and bred. Mm. He was a local running club, Blakely Ladies. And so she gave him my number. He contacted me. And I started going down to, in fact, no, it wasn't Blakely Ladies. He used to run at Bury. He used to coach at Bury Athletic Club. Yeah. So he made contact. And then for the first start of my running career, he took me to Bury Athletics track twice a week. And that's where it all started.
That's nice. So he took you there, did he?
Yeah, he used to pick me up and drop me off for those first couple of years going to Bury track.
So out of all them sports, then obviously you said that you was getting involved in, everything. What was it about running specifically that you was kind of like, that's the one?
So I always wanted to do sprinting 100 metres, 200 metres. So as the years progressed and I was training, I was probably about 17. The coach I had at the time then had said, you'll do 400 metres because despite being small, you've got a long leg stride. And I was going, but the 400 metres, that's really hard. I don't want to do it. So I was hanging on for trying to improve my times of 100s and 200s. And I was just not fast enough.
Okay,
to put it frankly, I wasn't fast enough. So in one club championship, I did a 400 metres and did it really well. And I made that mistake, did it well, and that was it, never looked back.
So they put you onto the path of 400 metres?
Yeah, put me in the path of the 4. And even in those years when I was at Trafford Athletic Club then, training, my training pals used to call me the tank because I was so strong.
Nice. That's a good name.
When we were dragging those tyres up and down the track on a harness and I was, trouncing them all, I was a tank, I was strong, and I think that's why I ended up doing the 400 metres. I was just strong-based athlete from the early days.
I've watched recently, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on Netflix. I think it's just called Sprint. Have you seen it?
No, I've not watched it. I kind of shy away from watching things like that.
Do you?
And I don't know why. And maybe I should watch it now, Adam. But yes, I really wanted to do 1s and 2s.
Well, this is all about the 100, 200 metre stuff. Yeah. How come you shy away from it now? What out of interest?
I don't like watching things in relation to. It's only the last couple of years that I can actually watch running on TV.
Oh, right, okay.
Because when I watch it, I'm there. I'm on the starting line, and because I finished my career a lot earlier than I wanted to, there's still that emotion attached to it. So it's only the last couple of years that I've sat and watched the Olympics, Commonwealth Games on TV because when they're on the starting line, I'm there, the fight or flight, the adrenaline's going, and I feel sick.
Yeah, I can imagine. So does it take you right back to when you were... So it
takes me right back, which is lovely memories, but it takes me right back. And as I always came out of the sport earlier than I probably should have or could have, wanted to. Yeah. So I always feel a bit bitter and twisted.
Yeah, so it's taking this amount of time to get to actually watch it again, really. Yeah. And that's something to get into as well, going right back into it then, thinking about, you've mentioned to me as well about obstacles, adversities along the path. What were your biggest obstacles on your way up?
So I think even from an early age, unfortunately, Mum passed away when I was very, very young. And I suppose that was the early driving factor. And I think I probably felt a little bit lost in my teens, and was, once that was pointed out to me that I was good at running, I was like, okay, then I'll almost use that as a distraction. Because probably only, 9 or 10 when I was being taken down to Bury. And then, later in my life, my dad died in my early 20s. And again, that was very, very distressing, upsetting, but it almost made me focus more, if that even makes sense.
Yeah.
I had something to almost focus my energies on. And so, yeah, it's those sad times, I think, have been sad, but been positive for me, because I've had a distraction.
Yeah, I understand, and you kind of go one or two ways with those things, don't you? And I know you mentioned, about like your dad passing, obviously around that time when you was, a bit older into your running. How did that affect you mentally when it came to just day to day, and also as an athlete? You as a person, but also as an athlete.
So it affected me in a few ways, because I was, let alone with the sadness of not having the parents, but everything I did for me. I bought my own things till I got sponsorship, worked, despite the training, had like 2-3 jobs.
Yeah.
And so, and my sisters even say to me now, they don't know what drove me to actually do that. But it's, just remind me the question. I've gone off track there, miles
that's okay.
off track.
No, don't worry. So, obviously, when your father passed away, and you was training at the time, how did that affect you as an athlete, like in terms of your mindset and the training that you was doing?
It just made me, this sport give me a distraction. I could lose myself in the sport, and I would train till I was sick sometimes, and it was kind of like a nice feeling, but it wasn't a nice feeling. So I think the training, the sport, the getting to the gym, I used to train around my job. I used to work shifts and be training at 7 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And I think that focus was taking me away from actually the sadness. And luckily for me, I achieved something, a massive achievement longer term with it. But I think it drove me to make better things for me. And I know it could have been the complete opposite way. Yeah. We've spoke, haven't we? You can either kind of give up at times like that. Was there ever any time, just like, going from that early age up into the Olympics, was there ever a time that you actually thought, I want to give up? And was there any way of overcoming that? Not that I can recall. I'm very much of a fighter in that respect. I can't recall any time where I thought, I've had enough of this. I was complete opposite. I almost thought, no, I want to do more. And I think the sport and the achievements made me think I always wanted to be a physio. And in my 20s, I didn't go to university to train to be a physio. I did other things that I could, sport-wise for me, and could help people, whether it be personal training, Pilates, did sports massage. So I think it made me do those things, and those are the distraction, as well as me, at that time, after I'd competed internationally, doing half marathons and 10Ks badly.
Oh, okay.
But I found it really hard to train. Without having something to train for.
That's it, isn't it? I suppose because you had such a big, lofty goal that you was going for. It's like, it's difficult, I suppose, when the bar isn't as high as what you was aiming for in the past. When the day-to-day came, so you mentioned about when you was little and, you was getting taken to... You was getting taken to your training all the time for 2 years. In terms of the next part for you growing up, how did that look like? Was it difficult for you were you still getting taken there right through, or how did actually just physically get into training work?
So what happened is that coach who took me to Bury for those years, so I was going to Bury, he then formed Blakely Ladies.
Okay.
And I was literally on the doorstep of that track.
Okay, nice.
So I could literally walk to training, which made my life easier. And, I was there for a number of years. And I loved it, and I loved the people I was training with, but I almost felt as though I'd outgrown them.
Okay.
In a nicest possible way. Don't mean that in a negative way. Which is, which is when I started looking for probably a more elite club. And that's when I found Trafford Harriers.
Yeah.
And it was Trafford Harriers that allowed me to grow to be the international athlete, being surrounded by other international athletes there.
What was the difference in like level then when you got there? Could you tell the difference
straight away? You know, I was behind the likes of Shirley Strong, Sharon Collier. I don't know if you'll know those, you might not be old enough. I was behind the likes of some, you know, the coach there had some really good international athletes in the past, and it was a different level. The club nights there are a different level. They're in different athletic leagues.
Yeah.
So it was a step up, and it was, from a training perspective, the training was a lot more challenging. And I was training with, I wasn't always the person winning the training, beating the training sessions. I was the person at the back of some of these training sessions, which then spurred me on to work harder.
So that is interesting, because you mentioned a moment ago as well about you was doing training sessions at like 4 o'clock in the morning and all kinds. What was it that was like your biggest motivating factor? What was making you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do that?
Well, it wasn't what was getting up. The job I had, I was a policeman at the time, and I was working shifts, and I knew I had to get those training sessions in around my shifts to get where I wanted to be. So, and again, maybe it was the constant drive of wanting to achieve. So to me, it was normal to finish work at whatever time and then go to the gym, or, you know, go and do a hill session, you know, and I might not have got the quality out of my body that I wanted to with the session, but I knew I had to get the session in. And I think it was just being consistent. That was the key for me.
Did you have anybody in like the back of your mind that was a competitor that you knew you was going against? Or was there anyone that you was like competitive with?
Myself.
Just yourself? Yeah,
I think it was for myself. And I really think it was my escapism. It was my escapism from the kind of deep sadness, you know. I'm one of eight children, and we had great times at home. And Dad used to work nights, and we used to have parties and everything in those days. But I think there was no particular person, and even when I was in international athletics, I never looked up to anybody, which was really weird. It was just all about me and what I want to do for me. And I almost wanted to be somebody a bit different.
Yeah, that's good.
I wanted to be somebody a bit different, but I didn't know I could achieve what I did.
Yeah. Was that Olympics, was that in your mind all the way through this?
So up until the Olympics, the year of selection almost, I knew I was near the qualifying times and could get the qualifying times. And it was in 1992 UK Championships, and I won the 400 metres. And it was the person who won the event was got a guaranteed place if you had the qualifying time. Nice. And that particular year I won the 400 metres. And I remember going over the finishing line, and at the time the selector person, I can't remember his name, was it Andy something? I remember him being the opposite side of the line and clapping his hands and saying, "You've done it, well done, you go into the Olympics."
Oh, nice.
And that, I still clearly remember that, and I don't think I could even believe it then. It was all very surreal, all very surreal.
Did you go into that race knowing that you could win that UK Championships?
I knew I could potentially win it, but I always had imposter syndrome. Always had imposter syndrome. And when I was running, what I needed to have was, you know, like horse races that have the things that they can't look either side of them. If I could have run with some of those, I'd have been a better athlete. Because as soon as I saw somebody at the side of me, I was like, oh, someone's there. And that was me. I'd lost that concentration.
Was that because you thought that they were like kind of going to just go past you, or what was that thought?
I don't know, it just distracted me.
Right.
I've got a funny story, I've got to tell you this first. So I trained at one stage to do a sprint triathlon.
Yeah.
So me being me, I can swim, but not a massive confident swimmer. I had triathlon swimming lessons to do the proper stroke and everything. Yeah. Fantastic. Got in this pool at Wilmslow Leisure Centre, started triathlon. The first part of the thing, I was winning the swimming till I went, I'm winning, and that was it. Everyone came past me.
It was over.
So that was over. So I need blinkers.
Yeah. So for you, it's just all about being in like your own zone.
Maybe that's not the lack of focus there, isn't it? Maybe I didn't have that full focus and be zoned in. Maybe,
yeah, just being in your own space.
Yeah.
Was you? Did you perform better in training, or did you perform better like under the lights at the time?
Training, because I had a laugh with my friends.
Yeah.
We used to train so hard and have such a laugh at the same time.
Yeah.
So in training, yeah, it was. I always probably worked harder. Yeah, competing. You know, I remember I got selected to run for represent Europe in the Commonwealth Games or something, and I just said I was injured and couldn't go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because whatever it was in the Commonwealth Games, what would it have been? Can't remember.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed competing, but I was always completely terrified.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that fight or flight, but probably more terrified than I should have been.
Was the nerves hitting when you came? So like trying to get into your frame of mind, you know, when you walk out into a stadium in the Olympics, like how did that feel? Do you remember that feeling when you walked out? What was that like?
It was very surreal. It was fantastic. It is still surreal. Going out and all them people are eyes on you. Yeah, I can't even describe the feeling. What was more interesting was when we actually were on the podium getting the medal.
Yeah.
And they were all saying, who's got some lipstick? And I had some lipstick in my spike bag. And if you look on the pictures, they've all got my red lipstick on the spike bag, from my spike bag.
Yeah.
And then John Majors in the audience, thumbs up at us and waving at us. And that was the more surreal thing for me.
Yeah.
But the actual race, I suppose I did go into my own zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a bit kind of overwhelmed a little bit. If I had my time again, I think things would be so different.
In what way?
I think then, because I had really no parental support and no support at all apart from my coach, there was no one there to give me a helping hand.
Yeah.
That I think that was the lack of something I needed. You know, there was nobody there to support me in that way, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I suppose it was just like your coach kind of, that was...
Yeah, that was my coach was great, he was there, but he was a very stern coach. But yeah, so...
What did, and for anybody listening as well, you know, that kind of grief piece that you spoke about then, you know, anyone else that's lost somebody and does have big goals and things coming up, like what would your advice be to them? Just
to really focus on the exercise, the training wise. I do truly believe that almost saved me.
Yeah.
And even in now, I've had various family members pass over the last couple of years, and my instinct for all of them is to turn to exercise. I almost lose myself in exercise, and I think it's fantastic. Well, it's just how it makes you feel afterwards. No matter how you feel going into it, you feel totally different when you're doing it, and then afterwards, and it just changes your emotions and your mindset. So I think, truly believe it was my saviour.
Did you always enjoy the training for it, like the process? Was there any kind of like routines and like affirmations or anything routine based that you used to go through yourself, you know, in that training to keep you going? I
suppose just keep moving forward, and you know, even if it made you be sick afterwards, you can get on with it and move on. And I think for me it was almost being a little bit so adaptable to the session. So if, for instance, I was doing a weight session by myself, if I couldn't do what I was given to do, then there's no harm in just slightly adapting. Okay. You know, if it's about, I didn't beat myself up, but the session was never as it was planned. It was just making sure, going through each session open-minded, preparing to adapt it and just keep moving forward.
Was it always your coach that was the one that kind of like set all this up in terms of training, or did you have to do it like yourself?
Little bits. He gave the running sessions, he gave some of the weight sessions, but I did a lot of it myself as well.
So it'd be interesting to know, you know, for someone that gets to the Olympics, what's an example of like a week that you would have went through in terms of training? What would that look like for you?
The thing is though, Adam, the Olympics now for athletes is different from my day.
In terms of yourself, you know, just yourself, I mean, so like
So I would be down to the track 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And probably do my weights twice a week and try and run once a week.
So you do weights twice a week?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it kind of endurance running session once a week.
Oh, okay.
Winter was a bit different because we did hill sessions and stuff then, and probably did more weight sessions, and the track sessions were longer sessions, longer as in we might not be doing 1s and 2s, you might be doing 800s, 1000s and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very different depending on the season and the cycle in the training kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just being open-minded and just do what you can. It's all you can do what you can.
Definitely. What was the so after you win a medal at the Olympics, what happens after that in terms of you've kind of gone from like the highest, like what's there come down to that? Is there what's the next part?
So you see, as soon as I came back from the Olympics, 2 years later was the Commonwealth Games, so you're almost already planning for that.
Yeah.
Sadly, I came back from the Olympics and not long after picked up an Achilles problem, which I couldn't really shake. It probably didn't really help that I was walking around in Doc Marten boots every day at work. So to irritate it, but yeah, it was a bit of a frustrating time for me because my job at the time wasn't supportive, and yeah, I couldn't just leave.
Yeah.
So, but I was still trying to get focused on the Commonwealth in '94, which I managed to get to.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't fully fit.
Did you race in that, did you?
I raced and didn't finish my race.
Yeah.
I wasn't fully fit, my mindset wasn't right. And then kind of after that, I was disappointed with myself and really just left the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say you didn't finish, that was that with that injury, was it? Was that that injury show itself? What was it, your Achilles?
The Achilles, yeah.
Yeah. Did you injure that? Did you injure that in training, like previous?
It an injury that was niggling along the way, and I was seeing physio at the time, but it just wouldn't shift. And I believe it was due to my occupation why it didn't shift.
Yeah.
But I couldn't make any changes from that at the time. And it was, that was really, really disappointing and sad for me. But I just kind of drifted and threw my teddy out the cot almost and thought, I can't do this and work full time, and train round it. So, yeah.
Did you get into train? Did you continue doing any other form of training after that point, Dom?
It was probably after that I refocused and did more of the training courses to train other people.
So what was the shift? So you've obviously went through that time where you say you've kind of thrown your dummy out a little bit, you've kind of cut off from the sport. Obviously you're quite low at this point.
Yeah.
What was the moment that you had a bit of a shift in that mindset?
So again, I just thought I have to move forward, and I think I got great pleasure from training people, from doing my Pilates and fixing people. Did a sports rehab degree. I got great pleasure from doing those things. And then where I was living at the time, I got pally with some mums who, and we started doing running, and I've done, 10Ks, half marathons, and I was doing that kind of thing just to give me something to do and escapism again.
Yeah.
Used to live near a canal and used to plod down the canal. So again, that kind of sadness I was living with, I was kind of offsetting with exercise. Not any exercise that I knew I could excel in, but it was a distraction.
Just to keep on doing something.
Yeah, and I was joining gyms and changing gyms because I wasn't happy with a certain gym for a certain reason.
Yeah. So you just go on.
Yeah.
You mentioned two things. You mentioned one about working with physios, as in physios working on you, and also as a distraction as well. You kind of moved on to doing some courses and got into that side of things. So I know that you made a bit of a career change a little bit later in your life, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what was that career change and how did that work for you?
So I was very unhappy in my job after doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
And again, I thought, if I don't make a change now, I'm going to be unhappy forever. And what is it you really wanted to do, Sandra? I always wanted to be a physio. So I managed to find a funded physio degree for over 4 years worked full time and
Yeah.
did my degree at the same time, still doing my personal training, my Pilates. So, and that's just me. I think I fill my day to distract myself from my grief, is what I think I do.
Yeah.
And so I managed to retire on my 50th birthday and graduate the year after.
Nice. Good.
So, yeah, and I always worked in physio in my 20s, and I don't know, never did it. And it was the sadness in my job almost that drove me to go and do it, you know.
What would you say then, because that is a thing, isn't it? You know, people, it's common, isn't it, that people are in jobs, especially around that age, where, you know, if they've been in it for a long time, where they might not be particularly happy, and you've probably got a choice, haven't you, of either just like carrying on doing the same thing at that stage and, you know, just kind of working to retirement, or you do make a bit of a drastic change. Like, what would you say to other people in that position?
To make the change, you know, we're working longer nowadays, and you've just got to jump and make the change, because life's way too short, and you've got to do what makes you happy. You've got to be adaptable, and you've got to just, you know, if you're afraid, almost jump. And that's what I've done many times, and you just have to you make it work. We all make things work no matter what they are. You know, I'm not saying anything really risky, but if you are sad and happy, it's going to upset you internally. It upsets your internal organs. Yeah. So, you know, it can make illness creep in. Yeah. So you've got to change it. You've got to just try and do what makes you happy. And for me, even though it's hard work, doing the studying and, you know, working full time, I made it work. You know, at the age of 45 to 50, I made it work. And now I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Yeah,
exactly. With that imposter syndrome piece then, so how do you still manage to manage that? You know, when you're doing so many different courses, that's taking you to a whole new realm of something else. How do you manage that imposter syndrome?
So I like challenging myself with courses and doing different things. And I haven't got imposter syndrome in small settings. I have it in large group settings of things.
Okay.
And I think I probably manage it by talking too much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm rambling on all the time. But I think everyone has a degree of imposter syndrome of thinking what they do. Surely, I think that's part of life. But it's how you control it. I have only just started to learn to control it. And I talk to myself. I literally talk to myself. And tell myself stop being stupid and get on with it.
Yeah,
I literally
enough.
Talk to myself.
There's loads of things about that now, isn't it? About, you know, that self-talk and, you know, into your own head. And do you look up anything around that about kind of, you know, affirmations and things to say, or is this just something you naturally do? And
it's something I naturally do, but you just literally have to get that little monkey off your shoulder that's going, you can't do this or whatever, and either brush it off and then just tell yourself you can do in life whatever you want to do, you know. And I've proved that from being, you know, one of living in Blakely, little North Manchester, initially on our little council estate, having one parent and then no parents, to be having an Olympic medal. You know, and getting myself to training, and then doing a career for 25 years and have a late life career change, do a career now which I'm passionate about and which I know I'm a true healer in what I do. So it's great.
I think there's just two final things that I want to cover with you. I think firstly, why is exercise at this point in your life? I know you've, you know, kind of moved on to more strength-based training. Why is exercise still so important to you? Especially that exercise, what is it about that you enjoy?
So I love doing powerlifting at the minute. I love lifting weights. And I think it takes me back to the days of being called a tank.
Oh yeah, you reverted back to the tank.
There's the strength element coming in. So once I went through the phase of when CrossFit was the initial phase, started doing CrossFit. Anything overhead in CrossFit I can't do, but the deadlifts, the bench, the squats, I was fantastic at. So there was me. Someone says, what about powerlifting? That was me. That was my escape. I loved it. Started it in 3 months. I was lifting crazy weights for somebody who was 50. And that was my massive escapism in those early years. Women anyway should be lifting weights. So you know, it was a massive thing for me to be doing something that was only good for my body, but I loved.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is still my escapism nowadays to get in the garage and even just doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes of just lifting those weights to make you feel good.
100%. I know, obviously, then you're a ex-competitor, so you've got that thing in you. Is there a goal in there somewhere? Do you have an idea on what you want to do with it?
So when I first did my first powerlifting competition, I was like the girl with the borrowed PE kit on, because there's got rules that your unitard can't touch your socks and all sorts. And mine were touching my socks, and I was doing everything wrong. So I was like a girl borrowing someone's PE kit, and it was quite funny. So I did my first competition and did all right, and thought, yes, I'll do another competition. My problem was my powerlifting. I was good at it.
Yeah.
But I was going, I want another GB vest.
Okay.
So
straight
yeah. And that I was going, I can get on that GB team with that. So I just needed to kind of wind my neck in a little bit and just take one step at a time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do now. I love lifting.
Yeah.
To do it and to lift and enjoy it, but not put the pressure on myself thinking that I have to compete, I have to get on the GB team, and I have to win a medal.
Just managing yourself.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to just ask you, because I'm made up, obviously, that you've come here today and spoke about this, because I know, like we've said, haven't we, this isn't something you usually speak about really now. And yeah, I'm just made up that you've come here and you've been able to actually speak about it, and you know, I've got the chance to listen to you. Just to kind of finish on a final note, what would you say, going back to them Olympics, what would be your fondest memory of that time? What was that moment that you'll always kind of really remember about it?
It was just the whole experience, to be fair. The build up to it with my training colleagues, the experience of the actual opening ceremony. I mean, that was an amazing experience. That was a very special moment. Competing, like for me personally, I kind of think I've blanked out a lot of the competing, apart from getting the medal and being on the podium.
Yeah.
But it all just seems mad.
Yeah.
It is mad. It is mad. I can sit here now and say I've got Olympic bronze medal. It is mad. But I know I need to learn to shout it from the rooftops a bit more and not just go, not
definitely not.
It.
Would you say, are you proud of yourself, or are you proud of yourself for that? Completely.
And I'm glad I've come today, because it's my first time at doing stuff like this, because I don't really like it. So yeah, I am glad I've done it. And, you know, I'm glad of my achievement. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. I really do think that you should speak about it more, you know, because there's going to be so many people, I think, from this and just everything that you can, you know, there'll be people will want to listen to you in any setting, anywhere you go, about this story and about you, because you've been through obviously so much stuff, and you've managed to not only obviously get yourself to an Olympics, win a medal, but there's other pieces that you've obviously carried on doing in your life to where you are now. So, no, honestly, I appreciate you coming on, and
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers, Sandra.